this is part 3 of my calligraphy series. In this episode, I'll be starting with the plain italic capitals and then introduce the serifs. For the capital letters, you hold your pen at a 15-degree angle, not a 45-degree angle. So that would be more like this versus this. And you can easily find a 45-degree angle by creating a square, cutting it down the center to get 45 degrees, and then cutting that center into thirds here. And then just drawing that line there to the bottom third, and then hold it. And that's 15 degrees because 45 divided by 3 is 15. So you can just hold it up against that, and there's your 15-degree pen angle. In this episode, I'll refer to midline that is not the branching line or the waistline, but the imaginary line between the writing line and the cap line. So like right about there. So for capitals, there are several different width groups. So some capitals are as wide as they are tall. Remember, this is the cap line. This is where they end at, and this is where they start at. Some capitals go below, down to here, like Q and J. But most capitals end at the cap line and start at the writing line. Some capitals are as wide as they are tall. And there are different width groups. Some capitals are 4/5 or half or even wider than they are tall. And it's important to remember these width groups as you write out the capitals. Give me a minute here while I write down the different width groups. So these are the different width groups. These at the top are as wide as they are tall. And then these are 4/5 as wide as they are tall. These are half as wide as they are tall, and these are wider than they are tall. You'll notice I isn't on here. That's because I is just one stroke, and it doesn't belong to any of these width groups. There's I. Okay, so I'm going to go through and write the italic capitals from start to finish and say notes as I write them. So for A, here, let me make my 15-degree angle here. So there's A first. Comes out, this is 4/5 as wide as it is tall. And you're just going to remember to put the crossbar low enough. If you do it too high, it doesn't look correct. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple letter, slightly leaning to the right. B, you come down for a stroke, and for the second stroke, you're going to come down and across, and it should be slightly above that midline, this joining line here. This is going to be half as wide as it is tall, so that is not the best speed. That's a little better. Still not great. This bottom one should be slightly larger than the top one, and this should be kept thin and slightly above that midline. C is, again, 2 strokes. You start over here. It's pretty straightforward. Make this one stick out slightly more so you have that 5-degree angle there. Don't round it too much. You can come down a bit on both sides, but up and down, but not too much. Then D, single stroke. It's as wide as it is tall. And what you're going to do is you're going to come down and then start this bottom stroke a bit, and it can go a little below. Then join it. And then there's E. You come down, and then cut across for your bottom stroke, all one stroke. Then for your second stroke, you do the top crossbar, and the middle crossbar is going to be slightly shorter. And it's just going to be slightly above this midline, which I did not do successfully. And then there's F, which is pretty much like E, except the second stroke is slightly below the midline. And there's G, which is basically just a C, but with that extra stroke at the end. Make sure that corner there is nice and sharp. Curve it a little more than C, but not too much. H is super simple. It's just one stroke, two stroke, and then you add the center line. It is in that second width group 4/5, so it should be less wide than the G. Maybe it's a little too wide here. I is just that one stroke there, super simple. That perhaps means too much. And this looks like a more 10-degree angle than a 5. Then there's J. J is like an I. We're going to come down under and go halfway to the right, descender line from the writing line. Then just top it off at the top there. That's more of a flourish, but, you know, doesn't really look right without it. K is one of the more complicated letters. It is 4/5 as wide as it is tall. You're going to come down as your first stroke. For your second stroke, start up here. It's going to be as wide as it is, maybe a little wider at the bottom. Then join in about the midline, then come back down. This area down here should be just a little larger than this area up here. So maybe you join a little above the midline. So more up here, kind of. L is in the half width group. And you're just going to come down. Like an I. And then just come across and curve up a tiny bit. Just make sure it's the right width. It's a pretty basic letter. M is not. M is one of the more complicated letters. Grab that 15-degree angle. First stroke is going to be coming on the top from down and slant down just a bit. Then this is going to go to the center. You're going to pick up one corner of your pen. Just pick up one corner so you're only writing with one corner. Then you're going to come for your third stroke and do the same thing except with the other corner. So you have a little gap here. An important thing to note for M is this is not parallel with this line. First and third, and second and fourth are not parallel either. If you don't lift up your pen, I'll show you what happens. It's not as sharp. It's flat instead of a sharp corner. I didn't do that perfectly, but you get the idea. You can just fill that in with the corner of your pen if you didn't fill it in at the start. Then there's N. 1, it's 3 strokes, 1, come across, lift the corner again, 2, 3. That was not the best N. It should not join that low, so what you can do is you can shorten your second stroke and have it instead angle out more, like that, and then lift your pen so the end of it you draw off at the writing line. Then the third stroke should be further out this way. Then you just fill it in with the corner of your pen. O is, again, a very difficult letter. It has to be quite round and perfect. And you're going to start up here where your pen width is at 15 degrees. And it's as wide as it is tall. You're just going to practice. It takes a lot of practice, but you'll get it. Pretty good O there. Could even be a little rounder. Just try to make it a perfect circle. Then there's P. Again, starts with that just normal straight line. Come up here, curve down a little late, just like D. And when you're going to join, this is all one stroke. When you join, it should be under that midline. And this is actually too wide here. It's in the half width group. So just watch that. Make sure it's not too wide. Let me try that again. That's a little better. Q is an O, basically, but with an extra flourish, so just write an O. And then add that stroke. It doesn't have to go all the way down. You can just do halfway. It's a little long if you go all the way. It can be like 3/4 even. R, again, that flat stroke. And then you're going to curve in as your second stroke. Make sure this is just right below the midline. And branch out here, right at that intersection, not anymore in. R is one of the harder characters. You have to round this well so that it doesn't look like a straight line right there. A little better. You get the idea. Keep this line here straight. S, you want to keep your curves nice and smooth and full. Comes with practice, and you want this bottom part, this bottom area to be larger than this top area. So don't do it like that. You want it just a little larger. You want to have it more like that. And don't overdo that difference in size. T is actually in the 4/5 width group. So you don't want it to be too wide. Come down with that straight stroke and just pull across. Pretty basic letter. U, you're gonna come down and make sure you curve early enough and good enough. That's one stroke, stop here, then come across and down. See, if you don't curve early enough, I didn't curve early enough there, you end up with that. You have to make sure you curve early enough and high enough so that when this comes in, you actually have a little bit of space here versus no space at all. Again, that's not the best U there. I'll try it again and get it nice. That's better. Not perfect still. V is basic letter again, is 2 strokes. You just watch that angle. Make sure it gets 5 degrees. It's one of the more hard letters to get at 5 degrees. And I actually slanted that backwards. That's a slightly better V. You want to make sure it's wide enough though. It's in the 4/5 width group, so can't be too thin. This is too skinny here. W is kind of like M, except that strokes 1 and 3 are parallel, and strokes 2 and 4 are as well. So here they're parallel, you can see. On M they are not. This one's more slanted than this one here. And you want to make sure you use your corner of your pen and overlap your strokes. So you want your strokes to be like this right here. When you join your 2 strokes, they should overlap to a single pen width there. Don't have them be like this. If they're like this, it just doesn't look right at all. Because now you have 2 pen widths here. It needs to join correctly. Let me try another W. Make it that parallel. Then here, you're just gonna watch this here. Try and make it somewhat symmetrical. Don't make this way bigger than over here. So watch these two areas. X is basically just a large X. It's pretty simple. Just across and across. One thing you do have to know, a couple things actually, this should be bigger, this area down here should be bigger than this area up here, which I did not do correctly. And just watch that 5-degree angle on both sides. Let me try that again. There, that's a better X. Then there's Y. Y, the first stroke does this left branch and the bottom part. So it's actually only 2 strokes for the Y. It's a pretty simple letter again. Z, you're going to have a little bit of curve, not too much. Cut across and then a little bit of curve. It's all 1 stroke. But if you do too much curve, like down here, it still needs to be full and be a capital. Can't be super curvy like this. But yeah, it just looks horrific. Then there's one last thing before I end this episode. That is the ampersand. That's just the letters ET together. It means and in Latin. So there's a fancy one, the capital ampersand, that I really like. 45-degree angle. Gonna come down and across, round, make an E, curve up, and make your T. Not the best one. Let me try that again. Yeah, there's your and. So you could say Y ampersand Z. It's Y and Z. This is just a nice fancy bit you can add whenever you're writing in capitals or even lowercase. It's a little big for lowercase, but it still works. And I think that's it for this episode. I didn't have time for the flourishes this episode, but I'll do both the slab flourishes and the swash flourishes next episode.